How's it going, guys? Randall aka Shizakats here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel to bring you our Chainsaw Man deck profile. This is a deck that's been tearing up the Japanese metagame within the last half year or so, with Chainsaw Man being the highest performing set in the last competitive season. With its release in English, it's expected to be one of the decks to beat, so let's see what makes this powerhouse work. Before we get into the Climax combos, let's talk about one of the deck's major pieces that other sets will want to be watching out for. The level 1 Kishibe is a pretty simple card. He sits at 6k base power and goes up by an additional 2000 for each other level 1 Kishibe in your front row. This means that 2 Kishibes puts them at 8000 power and a full front row puts them at 10,000. He comes with the downside of not being able to play backups or events while he's on stage, but if you're able to bring out a full trio, 10,000 power is more than enough to withstand most opposing level 1 lineups even without any backups. However, we do play events in this deck, so you will need to watch your sequencing so you don't accidentally prevent yourself from using them. With Kishibe as our main frontline force at level 1, our advantage combo is actually on a level 0, and a very powerful one at that. The Himeno level 0 has a Climax combo with a StockSoul. At the start of the attack phase, if we have 2 or more other traded characters on stage, we can send the Climax from the Climax area to the waiting room to look at up to 3 cards from the top of the deck, and add up to 2 cards from among them to our hand that are either traded characters or the Easy Revenge event. This is an extremely powerful combo to resolve as it gives us 1 bonus stock, as well as a net +1 in card advantage. Also, since the StockSoul applies its soul bonus upon being played, we do not lose that soul when we send the Climax to the waiting room for cost. This means that the Climax combo can be used near refresh to make sure we get as many Climaxes as possible going into the next deck without any downside. The Himeno combo also has a spammable Brainstorm ability, further increasing the card's usefulness. For every Climax you hit in the Brainstorm 4, you can look at up to 3 cards from the top of the deck, choose a card from among them to add to hand, send the rest to waiting room, and then discard a card. This is extremely useful given the high amounts of stock you will be generating with the StockSoul Climax, allowing you to control your deck state at will. The Top Check 3 is also helpful in finding more copies of the StockSoul Climax, event cards, or whatever you might need to turn the tides in your favor. Sometimes if the game is going well, you won't even need to use this effect, but it's a great option to have anyways. Next, let's take a look at the Easy Revenge event. When played, send the top 2 cards of your deck to waiting room and salvage a level X or lower character, where X equals the sum of levels of the 2 milled cards. This deck has an unusually high number of level 0s at 24, 32 if you count Climaxes, thus making it a bit harder to salvage higher level characters with this effect compared to other decks. But it's definitely not impossible. During the early stages of the game, use this event to grab any important pieces you might be missing, such as the Kishibe level 1s. It also sends itself to memory upon resolution, which is important for the mid to late game strategy of this deck. However, we'll come back to that later. Next, let's look at the finisher combo, the dreaded Aki level 3. Don't be fooled by his low 6500 base power, because he isn't aiming to kill your board, he's aiming to kill you. That being said, Aki gains an additional 4000 power and hand encore if you have the level 0 Himeno Salvage Brainstorm in memory. This Himeno has an act ability that can be used once you're at level 2 or higher. By paying 1 and setting herself to memory, she searches the deck for a level 2 or higher character and adds it to your hand. This can be a great tool for grabbing an Aki from your deck if you don't have one available. When Aki is placed on stage from hand, you can salvage any traded character from your waiting room. This makes it significantly easier to assemble your ideal end board, since you don't even need to start with all of your Akis in your hand. If you have Aki stuck in your deck rather than in your waiting room, you can salvage the Himeno Brainstorm and use her act ability to grab another Aki from your deck. This does cost 1 more stock, but oftentimes you will have plenty of stock to work with. Now for his actual combo. On attack with a Goldbar Climax, he gains 1000 power and sends the bottom 4 cards of the opponent's deck to the waiting room, dealing damage to your opponent based on the number of Climaxes sent. This is typically called an Icy Tail effect, named after Icy Tail Michiru from Saikano. But this particular card has a twist. Instead of dealing X damage to your opponent, where X is the number of Climaxes sent, Aki deals 1 damage X times, making it much easier to stick little bits of damage here and there to add up to a lethal kill turn. This version of the Icy Tail effect has also been seen previously in Weiss Schwarz on cards such as the level 3 Origami from Data Live, but Aki has one more trick up his sleeve that puts him in a league of his own. Let's return to the Easy Revenge event. While this card is in memory, when your level 3 Aki attacks, you can look at the bottom card of your opponent's deck and either leave it on the bottom or send it to their waiting room. You can repeat this ability for each copy of Easy Revenge you have in memory. Use this effect to remove clean cards from the bottom of the opponent's deck, to make it easier for Aki to hit as many climaxes as possible with his Icy Tail ability. One really cool thing about the Easy Revenge event is how you can arrange the order between them and the Aki combo. Let's say for example you have 3 Easy Revenge events in memory. When your Aki attacks, all 3 events and the Aki combo will go on standby, and you can choose the order of resolution. Starting with an Easy Revenge proc, let's say you see a Climax on the bottom. You can leave it there and then follow it up with Aki's Climax combo. Afterwards, you still have the other 2 instances of Easy Revenge left to go, so you can dig through the bottom cards of the opponent's deck up to 2 more times, making it even easier for the next Aki to hit some climaxes. Between the Aki Climax combo and the Easy Revenge event, this deck has a reputation for being a bit of a scam machine. Instead of just dealing damage from the top of the opponent's deck, this finisher will randomly punish its opponent for having too many climaxes clumped together at the bottom of their deck. And to make matters worse, because of the sheer number of cards leaving the deck, between the Aki combo itself and the many copies of Easy Revenge this deck will usually put into memory, the opponent will almost certainly take a refresh point on top of the damage they're already receiving. Overall, it's a finisher that rewards its pilot simply because the opponent low-rolled the order of the cards in their deck, but at the same time it has a fairly high expected value. Okay, we've spent a lot of time already on the Climax combos and their associated pieces, so let's get on to the rest of the deck. Starting out the level 0 line, we have 4 copies of the Himeno Bomb. This card can always trade 1-for-1 with opposing level 0s by sending them to the bottom of the opponent's deck, but more importantly, it has the on-play ability to grab an Easy Revenge from the deck by discarding a traded character. This is a fantastic hand-fix option for the early game to get rid of unneeded high-level characters and exchange them for necessary pieces once you hit level 1 and can use your Easy Revenge events. That being said, this card sees use throughout all stages of the game as long as you still have copies of Easy Revenge in rotation. The level 0 Makima is a very powerful plussing option that can see use in any Chainsaw Man deck. With her on-play ability, you can search your deck for any level 1 or lower character at the cost of 1 stock and 1 damage, making her great for securing Himeno combo, Kishibe level 1, or anything else that you think fits the situation. Her alarm effect can be incidentally useful as well, giving one of your characters the ability to rearrange the top 2 cards of your deck upon attacking. The Aki Clean Cut is another good level 0 plussing option alongside the Makima. He has 2k base power but attacks for 3k, and he can use his Clean Cut ability to move another level 0 from the front row to the back row for safekeeping. This is best paired with the Himeno Climax combo, letting you utilize her as an attacker, while still being assured that you can preserve her by moving her to your back row. That being said, this can be used to move any of your characters to the back line for extra value in the form of a +1. Moving past our Himeno Brainstorms, we have a 1 of Makima Brainstorm. Similar to the Elaine Brainstorm from 7 Deadly Sins, this Makima doesn't pay stock for her cost, instead sacrificing a character on your stage. This variable cost gives you more options in how you allocate your resources, and it can also be used to clear weak level 0 utility cards from the board after using their on-play abilities. For each Climax you hit on the Brainstorm, you look at up to 3 cards from the top of the deck, add 1 of them to hand, and send the rest to Waiting Room. This is similar to the Himeno Climax combo's spammable Brainstorm ability, except you do not have to discard a card afterwards. Between these Brainstorms, you have a lot of freedom to speed through the deck when needed. Onto our utility pieces, starting with 2 copies of Kobeni. This card has a very simple yet effective ability that we've seen in many sets in Weiss Schwarz. On play, discard a card to reveal the top card of your deck and salvage a character whose level is equal or lower than that of the revealed card. This gives you a costless ditch outlet to get rid of unneeded climaxes or high-level characters, semi-selective salvage, and knowledge of the top card of your deck all in one, making it a strong multi-purpose ability. Also, since many of the deck's most important profiles are level 0s, such as your level 0 Himeno combo and Climax swappers, you will always be able to grab them off of this effect. Speaking of Climax swappers, in this deck we have not 1, but 2. There are a total of 5 different Climax swappers in Chainsaw Man, but we've chosen these 2 for our list. The Aki sacks another character on stage to Climax swap rather than the usual paying 1 stock, which can be quite useful for similar reasons as the Makima Brainstorm. The second Climax swap we run in the deck is a very unique one, the Yellow Makima. This one actually lets you swap a Climax in hand with one in your deck rather than one in your waiting room, giving you access to a zone that isn't normally available for a majority of decks. She also has a bonus effect that lets you give 1k power anywhere at the start of your Climax phase, which has its own incidental usefulness. The next level 0 on our list is a 1 of power. On attack, you can send another of your characters on stage to stock. This is a simple yet extremely powerful ability since you can send characters that have already attacked and are destined to head to the waiting room by the time your next turn comes around. Some decks run more than one copy of this card, intending to use it multiple times in a game to build mountains of stock, but in our list, we're just running a single copy. This next card can be a tricky one if you don't read her properly. This level 0 Makima's on-play ability requires discarding 2 traded characters in order to look at up to 2 cards from the top of the deck. Choose up to one of those cards and add it to hand, and send the remaining cards to stock. This can be a very useful ability for digging for a specific card to add to hand, usually a Climax, while also gaining stock in the process. Many players might read this effect and think that it's similar to the on-play effect of Marine from Hololive, but there's actually a very powerful distinction. Makima doesn't need to add a card to hand, and if you choose not to add a card to your hand, you get to send both of the cards to stock, allowing you to essentially convert up to 2 cards in your hand into stock. Next, let's talk about our last level 0 and our only level 2 character at the same time, since they're a package deal. The level 2 Aki is a 2k assist to level 3 and higher characters in front of him, and has an ability that activates upon triggering a Climax. By discarding a Climax, you can heal 1 damage. This is a great ability to have when one of your Climaxes is a Goldbar, especially if you already have one in hand and don't need any extra copies. However, the level 2 Aki's full power is unlocked when combined with the level 0 Future Devil. Future Devil is normally just a global 500, but when this Aki is placed on stage from hand, Future Devil puts itself underneath the Aki as a marker, symbolizing their Devil contract. When this happens, Future Devil also lets you search your deck for any traded character and send it to the bottom of your stock, essentially refunding Aki's cost. And now that Aki has a marker, his final ability comes online. At the start of your clock and attack phases, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in the same order. This ability to see the future is extremely powerful, letting you know what cards you would draw if you're going to clock, whether or not you should brainstorm, and what your upcoming triggers are. It might seem a bit weird that we're only running 1 copy of each despite the combination between the 2 being so strong, but these cards are significantly less useful past the first copy, and they can be prioritized if a matchup deems them to be important. Typically, you will be more incentivized to grab this package if the 2k assist will help out with the next card on our list, the level 3 Aki early play. This card is, in my opinion, one of the biggest strengths of the deck, being an extremely potent early play. He can be early played if you have 2 or more copies of Easy Revenge in memory, so getting the first 2 copies into memory before establishing Kishibeis should be a high priority. On play, he heals and gets plus 1500 power until end of turn, putting him at a very reasonable 10,500, just enough to get over opposing triple Kishibei boards. When he reverses his battle opponent on either player's turn, if you have a card in memory, you potentially net yourself a bonus stock if the top card of your deck is level 1 or higher. Obviously, having a card in memory is a completely trivial condition, considering you need 2 of them in memory to early play him in the first place. This card has insane synergy with the Future Devil package we just looked at. Since the Aki level 2 lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you can plan your attack order based on when Aki will be able to reverse his opponent and get the bonus stock from revealing a 1 or higher on top of the deck. Additionally, the extra 2k power will make it much harder for the opponent to contest Aki, which means they might have to crash lanes and potentially give you even more stock. Overall, this level 2 package is an excellent investment of your mid-game resources, especially considering how little you actually need to operate during the endgame. Our final card in the list is a 1 of Himeno, which is used as a tech card for disrupting opposing boards. She has on-play bounce, and you can discard a card to bounce a second character. This is useful against matchups that have powerful defensive options, such as Hololive with their Hachima Beam rest counter, or Nazarick with their Aura rest counter. She also has an alarm ability that allows you to force one of your opponent's characters off the board to be replaced by one of a lower level from their waiting room, at the cost of 1 card in your hand. This ability has niche applications, but can still be a handy board disruption tool in the right situation. A lot of the game plan of this deck has already been laid out as we explained the uses of the individual cards in the deck. Your primary goal in the level 0 game is to secure a copy of the Himeno Climax combo and start using her Climax combo to generate advantage. This deck has many level 0s, so oftentimes you can just park Himeno in the back row, but if you do find yourself in a position where you need to attack with her, you will want to pair her up with cards like Aki Clean Cut to move her from the front row to back row, or Kobeni to retrieve her when your opponent runs her over. Additionally, you will want to be making use of your Climax swappers to constantly get StockSoul Climaxes into your hand and loop the combo turn after turn for more and more value. Your other goal throughout the early game will be to collect Kishibeis. Using the Himeno bottom deck bomb to grab Easy Revenge, to then grab Kishibei will be the most common way you grab these. That being said, you do not always need to go for triple Kishibe. In some matchups, having just 2 for a pair of 8k walls can get the job done adequately, so you will want to be aware of when going for just 2 is viable so you don't spend a ton of resources trying to reach for the third. Sometimes, you just won't be able to get your Kishibes together at all, in which case you can just go for a game plan that plays for maximum efficiency and compression. At level 2, Aki early play is the cream of the crop. Use him to heal down and potentially refund some of the stock used to put him into play. As mentioned earlier, whether or not you utilize the Future Devil package is dependent on the context of the game as well as the matchup. Assuming the game has been going well up to this point, you should have 2 easy revenge in memory already, but you can fairly easily get a third or even all 4 into memory leading up to your finisher turn. Many players like to instantly go for triple Aki as soon as they hit level 3, as long as the opponent is within a reasonable kill range, which is usually around 2-6 or higher. That being said, Aki has a very wide kill range since his effect is very polarizing. The more climaxes in the bottom cards of the opponent's deck, the lower chance they have of actually canceling the incoming damage. So it's not unreasonable to see Aki sometimes kill opponents from low level 2 if the opponent gets extremely unlucky. As far as your leveling pattern, you should always prioritize blue to play StockSoul and use Himeno's Climax combo, and then green comes afterwards. The value of Himeno Bomb gets lower and lower as the game progresses, and you put more easy revenge into memory, which makes her a prime level target for blue. For green, Aki Clean Cut is the optimal target, losing a lot of his value past level 0 when he can't easily kill opposing characters anymore. So you're probably wondering, how do you beat this deck? Well, countering the Aki endgame isn't so much of a strategy so much as it is praying your climaxes aren't in the wrong places. So let's focus on parts of the game outside of the finisher turn. Chainsaw Man is at its most comfortable when the opponent isn't dealing high amounts of damage to them every turn. The more turns Chainsaw Man has, the more turns it can potentially gain hand advantage off of a triple Kishibe frontline, and the more turns that it can potentially gain value out of Aki early plays. If you're able to play a fast game that deals a lot of damage quickly, they don't have as much time to sculpt for those important mid to late game pieces, nor do they have as much time to gain value out of them. Oftentimes, if you can force the issue quickly enough against Chainsaw Man, they won't be able to secure the full set of Kishibes needed for their level 1 front row, and many players might even give up on that game plan altogether to simply play for compression or their level 2 game. That being said, Chainsaw Man itself can play a very aggressive early game with cards like its Makima Riki and Aki Clean Cut, on top of the fact that their advantage combo is online immediately due to being a level 0. Funnily enough, or maybe not depending on how you look at it, this makes Chainsaw Man one of the best equipped decks for taking on an opposing Chainsaw Man deck. Another angle of attack that you can employ against Chainsaw Man is using level 1 removal options against the Kishibes. By using a removal effect such as a cost 0 Stock Bomb or Clock Bomb, you can remove a Kishibe from the board, dropping the other 2 down to 8k and having an easier time contesting them. The ability to employ this strategy will vary from set to set, and it's largely up to the community to come up with their own versions for their own series. One example of a very strong deck that can take advantage of both of these lines of offense against Chainsaw Man is 7 Deadly Sins. With a level 0 climax combo of its own in the form of the Elizabeth Brainstorm, it can go on the offensive from a very early point in the game, and it has Escanor bombs to deal with Kishibes. With 7 Deadly Sins being an English original set that Japan has never included in their metagame, I could see this being a strong answer to this particular deck with a matchup that we haven't really seen before in a competitive metagame. And that's going to conclude our deck profile for Chainsaw Man. As always, if you have any questions about the deck or its strategies, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Coming up next, we're going to be heading straight into our gameplay block, where you can watch some gameplay with this build and some of the other Chainsaw Man decks we've cooked up for you guys. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. Until then, this has been Randall, aka SheZaCats, on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. See ya!